The air was thick with the scent of incense and the low hum of chanting. The Temple of Zorith, a towering structure of obsidian and gold, loomed over the city like a predator ready to strike. Inside, the high priestess, clad in flowing robes of crimson, raised her arms to the heavens. Before her, bound in chains, was a young woman with silver hair and eyes like molten gold. She was the chosen one, the sacrifice meant to appease the gods and ensure the survival of their world. Her name was Lyra, and she had known her fate since birth. She was not afraid. She had been raised to believe that her death would bring peace, that her blood would nourish the soil, and her soul would ascend to the heavens. But as the priestess began the final incantation, a strange sensation washed over her. It was not fear, nor was it resignation. It was doubt. The doors of the temple burst open with a deafening crash. The chanting stopped abruptly, and all eyes turned to the intruder. He was a human, tall and broad-shouldered, clad in battered armor that bore the scars of countless battles. His sword, a massive blade of black steel, gleamed in the dim light. His eyes, a piercing blue, locked on Lyra's. "I'm here to stop this," he growled, his voice like thunder. The high priestess stepped forward, her eyes blazing with fury. "You dare interrupt the sacred ritual? You will bring ruin upon us all." The human warrior didn't flinch. "I don't care about your gods or your rituals. I won't let you kill her." Lyra's heart raced. Who was this man? Why would he defy the gods for her sake? She had never seen a human before. They were a rare sight on her world, known for their strength and stubbornness. But this was something else entirely. The priestess raised her hand, and a bolt of dark energy shot toward the warrior. He swung his sword, deflecting the attack with ease. The energy dissipated harmlessly into the air. The priestess hissed in frustration and summoned more power, but the warrior was already moving. He charged forward, his sword cutting through the air with deadly precision. The temple guards rushed to intercept him, but they were no match for his skill and strength. He cut them down with ease, his movements fluid and precise. Lyra watched in awe as the warrior fought his way to the altar. He reached her in moments, his sword slicing through her chains as if they were made of paper. He grabbed her hand and pulled her to her feet. "We need to go. Now." She hesitated. "But the ritual, the gods." "Forget the gods," he said, his voice firm. "Your life is your own. No one has the right to take it from you." The priestess screamed in rage, her voice echoing through the temple. "You will pay for this blasphemy. The gods will destroy you." The warrior ignored her. He pulled Lyra toward the exit, his grip firm but gentle. She stumbled at first, her legs weak from days of captivity, but she quickly found her footing. Together, they ran through the temple, the sounds of battle fading behind them. As they emerged into the night, Lyra gasped. The city was in chaos. The sky was filled with dark clouds, and lightning crackled in the distance. The ground shook beneath their feet, and the air was thick with the scent of smoke and ash. The gods were angry. The warrior didn't stop. He led her through the streets, his sword cutting down anyone who tried to stop them. Lyra's mind raced. She had never seen such violence, such destruction, but she also felt something she had never felt before: hope. They reached the edge of the city, where a small ship waited. The warrior pushed her inside and followed close behind. The ship's engines roared to life, and they shot into the sky just as the temple collapsed in a shower of stone and fire. Lyra stared out the window, her heart pounding. What happens now? The warrior leaned back in his seat, his expression grim. "Now we run. The gods won't stop until they have you back. But I won't let that happen." She turned to him, her eyes filled with questions. "Why? Why did you save me? You don't even know me." He met her gaze, his blue eyes steady. Because no one deserves to die for someone else's beliefs. Not even the gods have that right. Lyra felt a lump form in her throat. She had spent her entire life preparing for death, believing that her sacrifice was necessary. But now, for the first time, she wondered if there was another way. If maybe, just maybe, she could live. The ship soared through the stars, leaving the dying world behind. Lyra didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she was willing to find out. And as she looked at the human warrior who had defied fate to save her, she felt something she had never felt before. Gratitude. Part 2. The Journey. Days turned into weeks as the ship traveled through the vast expanse of space. Lyra spent most of her time in the small cabin, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. The warrior, whose name she learned was Kael, was a man of few words. He spent his time piloting the ship or maintaining his weapons, his expression always serious. Lyra tried to talk to him, to learn more about him, but he was reluctant to share. She learned that he was a mercenary, a soldier for hire who had been on her world for a job when he heard about the ritual. He had seen enough of the galaxy to know that the gods were not always benevolent, and he had made it his mission to save those who couldn't save themselves. But why me? Lyra asked one day, as they sat in the ship's small galley. There must be others who need your help. Why did you choose me? Kael looked at her, his blue eyes piercing. Because you were different. I could see it in your eyes. You didn't want to die. Lyra looked down at her hands, her silver hair falling over her face. I didn't think I had a choice. You always have a choice, Kael said firmly. No matter what anyone tells you, your life is your own. Never forget that. Lyra nodded, but she still felt a pang of guilt. She had been raised to believe that her sacrifice was necessary, that it was her destiny. But now, she was starting to question everything she had ever known. As the days passed, Lyra began to open up to Kael. She told him about her life in the temple, about the priests and priestesses who had raised her, about the rituals and the prayers. She told him about the dreams she had, dreams of a life beyond the temple, of freedom and adventure. Kael listened in silence, his expression unreadable. But when she finished, he nodded. You deserve more than what they gave you. You deserve to live. Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, she felt like someone truly understood her. She wasn't just a sacrifice, a tool for the gods. She was a person with dreams and desires of her own. But their journey was far from over. The gods were not easily thwarted, and they would stop at nothing to reclaim their chosen sacrifice. Part 3. The Final Stand. The ship's alarms blared, jolting Lyra from her sleep. She rushed to the cockpit, where Kael was already at the controls. The view screen showed a massive fleet of ships, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. The gods had found them. Kael's hands flew over the controls, his expression grim. We can't outrun them. We'll have to fight. Lyra's heart raced. But there are so many of them. How can we possibly win?